I purchased, I also went and got pomegranate kosher for Passover. It's a little sweeter, but how wonderful uh, was that? So let's hear what you have to say, ladies. And Crystal, you also, because you always have great wisdom.
Oh, I don't know if it's wisdom, but I sure got a lot of words. So, well, first of all, I just want to say I love the story of Ruth. I love what she is. She's a person who took a risk.
Yes, she
And
did.
she took a risk. And what I mean by that is she took responsibility for her actions. She took responsibility for carrying on the name of her husband. She stepped out on responsibility that was far beyond what anyone could have expected her to do. In addition to that, she took initiative, right? I wrote this down. She act on when no one else does before. She took the initiative to go forth. She offered up the sacrifice. Anytime that we go forth in the name of the Lord, we have to give up something else. There's always a trade-off whenever we step forth, right?
And didn't she left her whole former life behind, didn't she?
She did, but she didn't just do it. She did it out of knowledge.
Yes.
She understood what she was stepping into. And that's what the risk stands for: responsibility, initiative, she sacrifice, and knowledge.
That's good.
Yep,
That's
that's
good.
what
I like that.
she took the
Say,
risk.
say
And
that again. Responsibility.
yep, the sense of need to step out.
Okay. And then
Initiative.
initiative.
She took the initiative. She acted on what on that responsibility.
Next is sacrifice.
Sacrifice, because she had to give up to gain. We always have to give up to gain.
Yes.
And then knowledge, because she knew what she was getting into. She just didn't go in it blindly. She made sure that she understood.
Yes.
And when she came in, when she started friending Naomi and her husband, when they moved into Moab, when she started friending, she started beginning to understand their ways, and she started developing a relationship with them. And in the end, she developed a relationship with the Lord through that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and so they were alone in Moab. And I have to go back over here to where was it Dawn? Dawn, you're more than welcome to unmute. But she said, we don't have anyone with these beliefs anywhere around us as far as we know. And I'm going to tell you, that's absolutely correct. And there's a reason for that. Because when you go out and you scatter the seed, you're not going to plant all the seeds in one spot to get the harvest. That seed is going to be dispersed. Because that seed is going to grow up and provide food for everything else. And right now, God, he is preparing for the harvest. And that means that we're going to be scattered, and we're the ones that are planted. We're planted by ourselves in this rich soil, and we gather our nutrients from the technology that the Lord has given us. Right? Isn't this amazing that we can come on here? We can live so far away, but we're so far, but yet so close. What would we do? Right?
So Dawn says we're in a very rural area. Meaning, are you near any neighbors? Are you way out in the country? Dawn?
We're in an area in the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky where we own over 100 acres, and
wow.
a lot of our neighbors do. The neighbor behind us owns 2,000 acres.
Wow.
So rural. And it's beautiful. We moved here a couple of years ago. We absolutely love it.
It sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, but we're not near much of anything except
nature. You know, I think everybody's going to flock to you.
Yes.
You're not going to have to go anywhere because you got all the land. And you know,
doesn't that sound gorgeous? Wow.
It does. And the preppers are all going to run to you and be like, okay, it's coming. It's coming. We need a fortress. Where's the land? I know. Dawn's got some.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
That might be part of the reason we moved here too.
Yes.
That's
so
right.
Dawn, I mean, do you have children?
Yes, we've got 8 children. but the
Wow.
youngest now is 12. So
Okay.
like just earlier this month, we were back up in Ohio where we moved down from and going to a bridal shower for one of my daughters. And her sister, who's married and pregnant, was sitting next to her helping to do the bridal shower. And I was just so blessed looking up at like one of my daughters getting ready to have a baby and the other one getting ready to get married. And I was like, oh, I like this phase of life.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow. So of course, you're homeschooling?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your interaction with any other women? Do you
Well, we go to the homeschool co-op once a week.
Okay,
It's a
okay,
Christian one.
okay.
And we have been trying for quite a while now to find a church and not doing very well at that. But we have found
Mhm,
one that we are sometimes going to that we have some things in common with.
mhm,
Um, and really, it's mostly online.
mm,
And then where we lived up in Ohio, we were part of a church where the church had a lot of good things to it, but our favorite thing was our home group, which was like a second family
yes,
to
yes,
us.
yes.
And so we did life together. And so we're 4 hours from there. We were looking at a radius, not going too far from where we knew some of our adult children were going to be staying, because we lived there for 20 years. So
Mm,
children who had like that was their whole life there
mm,
didn't want to go anywhere.
mm.
Um, but still working on getting to know people in this area and making connections.
Well, somebody might just even ask you a question, just a simple question, and you might say, "Well, I do, I do Shabbat, or I'm celebrating Passover," and then they might say to you, "What's that?" You know?
Well, so far the closest conversation like that was I mentioned Passover, and they're like, "You're not trying to become Jewish, are you?" And I went,
Yeah.
"No."
Well, and a lot of churches do the Passover. In fact, of any of the holy days, it seems like Passover is the one they're looking into because it's all around the resurrection time and that. So they seem to maybe be looking into that a little bit more. But, have any of them watched anything with The Chosen or whatever? Because it really doesn't it blow our minds when we say, well, our Messiah was Jewish. I mean, it's, I really feel that sometimes when they say that, um, oh my gosh, it seems so anti-Semitic. Oh, now you're becoming a Jew, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound terrible? You
And
know?
I realized I said it about Passover. It was actually Purim because obviously we haven't done Passover
Yeah,
yet, and this is
yes,
our first time doing these.
yes,
So, yeah, and I was explaining how we read through the book of Esther. We sat down and it was just 5 verses each, and just kept circling
yes,
round, and we read the part about booing, and we decided to
yes,
also add in cheering. So we had
y-
Esther got cheers. We were making it more fun, and
yes,
um, did that, and um, but yeah, what you were saying about Passover, um, when you were talking about how some people do that, and I'm thinking that sounds like about the most overwhelming idea I can possibly imagine. I do not
yes,
have an urge to go anywhere to that extent. In fact, what we're thinking at this point is make it where we know for sure that there is, and I wasn't thinking like ketchup. I'm thinking like bready things, like
mm-hmm,
none in our kitchen. Like
mm-hmm,
if it's in the deep freeze downstairs,
mm-hmm,
like I can take a bag of yeast and put it in a deep freeze that's
mm-hmm.
down in the basement, and like I'm feeling like, and I don't know, maybe you're gonna tell me I'm wrong in this, but I'm feeling like that's doing great to like work on the kitchen at that extent, and then
Yes,
obviously not include any.
yes,
Can I
yes,
just say, we we get so bent out of shape over the how,
yes,
Yeah,
we forget the what.
right,
And
right.
if we understand the what, the how just naturally flows. And the how is going to look different for everybody. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
look pretty close to the same because we're all keeping the commands. But a
right.
person who is in one stage of life, maybe another person in a totally different stage of life. And some people have the ability to um, totally get rid of everything they can afford to do it. I'm going to put it that way. They can afford to just get rid of everything, throw everything in the trash, get it all out, burn it, whatever they have to do. And other people can't.
Mm-hmm.
But God weighs the actions of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honestly, I don't check my ketchup and mustard for yeast. I make
Oh,
sure my bread
right.
is out. Yes, I make sure my bread is out and my yeast is out. Never fails. Absolutely every Passover, every feast of unleavened bread, I'm in the kitchen and I find yeast that the Lord says, yeah, you didn't look there. And I'm like,
Yes.
okay. So I just take it out and I put it in my garage. I put it in my garage.
Yes. And you can even take like a box and put some of that stuff in and seal it up and put it in your garage or like you said, your basement. And to me, that's good enough. And when I was saying that, there are because I was raised in a Jewish community, and when I also talk to people in Israel and whatever, the ones they are adamant about certain things and they go to um extreme about certain things. And sometimes it used to be, with the Coca-Cola before they had the plastic bottles, they told me that they would have Coke for Passover, and that was when they cleaned the they cleaned their factory, their bottling systems. And so, but to me, that's just going above and beyond and to the upper, and and like I said, then they're exhausted. Now, I like to use a special set of dishes that I got. They were my mother's that I used just for Passover. And it's kind of nice just to say, okay, I'm going to just use these dishes. And they don't even, and even they don't even have to be expensive, but, we use goblets, for the glasses of wine or grape juice, whatever you use. And so it's just kind of nice because it's just setting it apart, another thing. So everybody can really do whatever, whatever in their heart, but you can go way overboard.
Yeah. Did you know that in Israel, I heard one time, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard one time that Coke is kosher, but Pepsi is not.
Hmm.
And that's because Coke paid for the kosher seal, but Pepsi didn't.
Huh.
And so that's how far you can take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what does
Wow.
the word of God say about Passover, Miriam, right? It
Right.
says that you're supposed to retell the story
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and you're supposed to not eat leavened bread,
Right.
that the bread was
And
unleavened.
yes, and you're supposed to eat matzah. You're
And you're supposed to,
commanded to eat matzah. Yeah.
yes. It's a, so you have to go get matzah or you have to make
Yeah.
matzah, which is,
Yeah, just
yeah.
unleavened. Yeah, it's like a unleavened pita. Very easy to do. Yeah, and there's all the Passover Haggadahs, the Passover Seder order. Um, it doesn't. They're all basically the same. They just add. So, and it got to the point in a lot of Jewish homes, it got so long that the children were falling asleep or, and it got to be, it was dull and boring.
Oh my gosh. Can I
And
tell you the first Passover I did? I pulled out that Haggadah, the long one.
oh gosh,
Oh, that was not good.
not good, not good. No, that's why you got to have all those little things for the kids with the plagues and because what it is, just you're to teach it to your children.
Yeah.
And the whole group can be, we all are children of God, but we've got to make it enjoyable for our children.
Yeah.
I can share a funny story from when
Please.
I was like 10 or 11 years old. And we were going to a Presbyterian church, and they had someone come in from the Jewish community to do a Passover meal for all of us and
Hmm.
explaining each part of it. Obviously, they weren't explaining how it connected with the Messiah, but they were explaining the Passover meal and that. And so we got the cedar plate in front of us, and then he started into what I was thinking was one of the longest prayers I'd ever heard in my life. And I was hungry, and there's a plate of food right in front of me. And so I decided
To
to
go.
sneak just a little bit of it. And I didn't know what the things were. I knew some of them, but some of them I didn't know. So I ended up sneaking horseradish, which was a horrible choice.
Oh gosh.
And,
By
and
itself to
so
eat?
and so then I'm trying so hard to keep silent as I've got
Mm.
this horseradish in my mouth and I'm trying to like chew it and swallow it.
Oh
And
god.
the prayer finally finished. And my mom looked at me and was surprised. I had tears just running down
Yeah, I
my
was gonna say, did you have
just
tears running down?
like this
Yes.
and didn't say a word. And she's looking at me and
Yes.
we just moved on.
Wow.
And I was like, what was that stuff?
Wow. One year I bought the horseradish root fresh and then cut it in a oh my gosh, that was really strong. But I like horseradish, and I love the combination of the bitter with the sweet when you take the matzah and then the haroset, which and as each day it gets it ferments a little bit. Is so good. But I like to put golden raisins and I do figs and I do a little bit of orange and apricots and dates, and besides apples and that. And oh wow, and I use a little bit of pomegranate wine in there also, a little bit, unless if you can't, you can use the grape juice. But oh, it's so, and then of course the nuts. But to me, I love that combination, and that what it is. It's the bitter and the sweet, and that's what life is. Sometimes we're going to have moments of that, right? And then we're going to have moments of sweetness, and all of us have gone through that, and all of us have been at times bitter and sometimes very sweet, haven't we? And so,
And salty.
and salty. Yes, yes. And so, to me, it's just a wonderful, wonderful time. And if you don't have a Seder plate, we say get a charger and just put the things. You can get a charger at pretty much any store now, very reasonable if you can't get a Seder plate. But most
What's the
people,
charger?
a charger is like you.
Can I just ask who is on the iPhone?
Huh?
Anybody? Who's on the iPhone? All I see is iPhone here. Jen. Okay.
Jen. Okay.
That's like she said, ha ha ha, salty. And I'm like,
yeah.
are you laughing?
A charger is like a plate. It's like a bigger plate that you put, and then you put a dinner plate on top of it.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that? Like they're either silver or gold,
Well,
and then there are other kinds that like I don't and so it's a bigger plate. So if you don't have a regular Seder plate, because a lot of people have their own Seder plates to do all the ceremonial food in that, and so we just said if you can't or you can't afford, get one of those chargers and just use that.
I had no idea it was supposed to be a different plate.
It doesn't. I use
It
mine
doesn't.
I put mine on paper plates.
Your Yeah, it all depends. There's such a thing called a Seder plate, but and you can look online and see whatever. But is it saying you have to do that? No, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
so
just
there's the fact that there's things that are beautified like that is actually called a hidur mitzvot.
mm-hmm,
And a hidur mitzvot, it means to beautify the commands.
mm-hmm,
And one of the things that the Lord has commanded us to do is to exalt God. Well, how do
mm-hmm,
you exalt an all exalted God? You just simply beautify his commands.
mm-hmm,
And you just take his commands and you do them better and better and better and better each time. And that's where your traditions come in, and that's where your how comes in, and that's where your application comes in. And sometimes we get all bent out of shape over the applications the Pharisees did, right, Miriam?
yes,
Been
yes.
very bent out of shape over the
Had to be
how.
exactly so, just so, and it was more work doing that. Yes, yes.
And Yeshua came and said, it's not about the how, it's
No,
about the heart.
it's about your love, your heart.
Yeah,
Mhm,
it's about your love. It's about your heart.
mhm,
He didn't say don't do it. He
mhm.
said don't get bent out of shape over the how you do it.
Right. And the word heart is used the second most, I think, more times in the Bible than maybe the word Messiah or whatever or different. It is used a lot. So it's all about the heart. The Torah is the heart also, you know.
Is
Is Lev
Lev the base for Levite?
hmm.
I don't
Well,
know if Lev is the base for Levite or
yes.
not.
No, I don't know. I know and then Levi, you know, that's also the name Levi, also
Right.
Levi. So I don't know. We could look into that, but
I do know that the Torah starts with the first letter of heart and ends with the last letter of the Hebrew heart, Lev, right? Am I correct?
mhm. Well, it's you mean yes, yes.
Yeah. And so when you look at the first letter and the last letter of the Torah, you get the
Mhm.
word heart. Am I right? I could be
No,
mistaken.
no, be bait. It'd be house or because the first letter is Aleph and then the second letter is
No,
Bet. Bet.
the very last letter of the whole Torah.
The very last letter is a Tav. Aleph Tav,
Aleph
no,
and Tav. That's
Tav.
right.
Aleph and Tav. Yes.
I knew there was something there. Hop in, anybody, if you know.
Hi, Crystal. Hi, Miriam.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just nursing my baby right now, but I wanted to say that I kind of hopped in a little late, but Crystal, what you were saying about like, oh, I forgot what you said now about just like doing it and then, or just keeping it simple, but then when your heart, like if your heart is in the right place, then slowly things will come about. Like I remember last year, I look back at the last 5 years, slowly coming into Torah and just like laughing at myself at some of the things that I've done. And even like when we stopped eating, we started eating clean and I just did it because I thought I had to do it. Right now, I know that of course I want to do it now and I do it and it's a joy for me to do it, but at first I just threw everything out of my home without even warning my husband and it caused so much friction in our marriage. um and then I would get mad at him if like he ate, we would go to like a crawfish or something and we never talked about it, and so I was shocked when I saw him in the corner like having a great time, stuck in the crawfish, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like. And now, years later, we are at a place where my husband is the one that's making sure nothing comes in our home and everything is clean. And, when our heart was in the right place, because I went from that to just, let's just eat shellfish because, whatever. And then I feel like when my heart changed, that's when slowly we went back to it. And now I don't even think about it, um and there's things that I do, of course, that I just want to be obedient, and then slowly my heart changes, and then there's other things that I feel like I just rushed into but my heart wasn't in the right place, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
this Passover is the first, it's going to be our fifth or sixth Passover, but um this is the first Passover that I cleaned the leaven out of my house, Dawn.
Mm,
So just a little FYI. But last year I cleaned the leaven, like the stuff, out of my house. And even after 5 years of slowly walking into like the biblical feasts and then into Torah, do you know that even this past Halloween was the first Halloween that I did not celebrate, that we did not celebrate, or I don't even
mm,
want to say celebrate, but we didn't go trick or treating, or we didn't even talk about it in our house. And so last Passover was when I cleaned, my husband and I went through our attic and we filtered through the Christmas stuff and the Halloween stuff, and and all of I had new age stuff in my house too.
mm,
And we just got big garbage bags and threw it out,
mhm.
and I didn't have time to think about the leaven, like the actual leaven in the kitchen, But this year I feel at peace what's in my home, but now it's the kitchen.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm still learning, of course, like we all are, but
Isn't that great? Because I have so many stories that people tell me. I remember Dr. Deb saying her first Shabbat dinner, and she was so excited, and she wanted to make it so special, and she served crab legs, and that was her, and
yes.
you know Yes, and it's just like, it's just, you do these things. I can remember during the week of Passover with my husband, we were so concerned. We were eating a hamburger, and we were so concerned that they normally put bacon on their burgers. We were so concerned about the bacon. Here it was Passover, and then we're taking a bite and we're realizing, oh my gosh, we're eating the bread. And so, it's like, ah, and I can remember we used to do Passovers for churches or other places, and there was a small group, and they were like an older Sunday school group. And so we did a special one for them. And we going through half of the Passover and whatever. And this little elderly lady stopped me and she goes, honey, where are the dinner rolls? And I went, oh my God. She had missed the whole.
That's so funny. That is
Isn't that funny?
so
Or
yes.
I've gone to Passovers at churches, and they wanted to do so good where they normally still ate, but they were trying to be so good and not have anything. And then they'll say, and then they would want to serve you, and they did green beans, and all through the green beans was bacon. And it's so,
Oh yeah.
and what do you do when you're going to you're going to a church, they're honoring you, they're trying. And so it's so funny, all these things, but we've all gone through all that. And I know even in my freezer once in a while, it'll be the middle of Passover. I'll go, oh my gosh, here's a bagel or something that I didn't. And what do? I just throw it out, and that's life. I mean, that's life. Right, lots of living and learning, exactly. We just learn, and one of the worst things, we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we, ladies? And we
Oh,
gotta not be that way, we
aren't
just.
we?
Yes,
We have to, when it comes to walking the Torah, we have to have grit and grace.
yes, yes.
You just have to have grit and grace because you have to press in hard. You have to walk through those hard times with your family and with your friends and with your loved ones because you're stepping out. You're not
Right.
stepping in, you're stepping out.
Mhm,
And when you step out, that takes grit. But then it
mhm,
also takes grace for yourself and grace for your children and grace for your family. I know
mhm,
when my story about, the funny things that we did was my children were little and I stepped into this tour for the first time and we were doing this Shabbat dinner and I pulled out this little book I was supposed to be reading and then it said something about, putting the covering, the women covering their heads. I read something like that. And I'm looking around, me and all my girls, because I have 4 girls and a boy. And, so 5 girls there, and we're all trying to light candles. Trust me, it can turn into a fire hazard.
mhm.
That I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, we don't have any coverings. And so I went and got dish towels and I put dish towels on all of our heads and we're standing there. I mean, can you just picture this? Just a bunch of people don't know what they're doing, standing around a table with a bunch of candles. It's little kids you should have put battery operated candles on the table with these little ones. And we're
Mm.
all lighting candles and we have dish towels hanging off our heads.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, isn't it? Yeah, we look at ourselves and we're going, "Oh my gosh, and all we can do is laugh, can't we? And we need to do that because like I said, we have a tendency, or we compare, and just like when we make bread, we can have the same recipe, but every lady has a different spice, and their bread might look different. And we can almost tell whose bread it is by the way they make it, and the way they
Yeah.
shape it, even though they're braiding it. But it's like at our congregation, we'll have a community Seder, and so we let people decorate their own tables. And some, oh my gosh, it is amazing. Some, one person at first said, "Oh my gosh, look at the way this person's table is. I can't." And we can't do that. Or we need to, just like when I think we talked last week at our congregation, when you are getting married under the huppah in a Jewish ceremony, you cannot have a ring of stone. It has to have no holes in it, and every woman has to have a plain band. So everybody is equal. And so if somebody needs something from your table, or they need something to beautify your table, help them or whatever. But everybody has a different spice. Somebody might want it a certain way and it'll look a certain way, and they have little kids and they want to decorate it. And so we should not compare. We should just rejoice in our differences.
That's right. Beautiful. Ina Gold said she looked up that.
Yes, isn't that great? Yeah.
She said the Hebrew word for heart is lev, and is
Lamed Vav. Yeah.
the heart is lev, and is
Yes.
lamed bet, and the word Levite is lamed vav, and it comes from the word Levi.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ina Gold. You should unmute
Yes.
and let us see you. I haven't seen you in forever.
Yes. Well, you know, the B and the V in Hebrew is interchangeable. And so
Yeah.
thank you. That's great. And so just like when I did Devorah, it could, you know, people say Deborah, but the Hebrew is Devorah. And so the B and the V. So, but we just love we love the word heart, don't we? It's all about the heart. Yeah. So, well, it's about 8 o'clock, and do you
It
think?
is.
And we've had an incredible evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yes,
And
thank you.
you guys have a blessed week, and know that we're going to be closed for Passover. The office is
Yes.
closing for Passover and the week of unleavened bread. So make sure you watch your calendars in band, okay?
Yes, and please have an incredible Passover, all of you, and rejoice. And happy Passover to all of you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Have a good
Goodbye,
night. Happy
everybody.
Good night.
Passover.
Leila
Thank
Tov.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.